So we're glad to be with you, although it's going to be a challenging last part of our day together because we just had the early dinner. So if there is anyone who wants to do some jumping jacks, this is the moment. We're going to do our best to make it work. I think because all day today has been about the future and about the technology. We met last week, and we were trying to figure out what to discuss with you today, and of course, the first thoughts that came to our mind were about technology in education, and how AI and the emerging technologies we're seeing are going to transform education, and whether we are going to have any teachers in any classrooms anymore, and how our school is going to look like. But then we realized we're actually not going to talk about this, because I think today is not just about technology. Today, and the forum is about the future. And I'm delighted to have three different gentlemen here with three fantastic angles on how education and learning especially is going to look like in the future. And I think we're going to surprise you because we chose a completely different angle for the conversation tonight. And the angle we chose is actually starting from the assumption that technology is definitely going to empower the young generations. We all agree with that. But the question we are trying to answer is what is actually that technology will empower for us as humanity. And our answer to that is that technology is probably going to empower what's within us, right? So it's probably the character and the values and the intentions that we as humans are going to come up with in our encounter with technology. So that's the reason why we're going to focus on a different angle, because these three gentlemen have made a lifetime career in education, but trying to approach it from a variety of different angles. So basically, what we're going to try to discuss with you today is how the global situation we are in is making us look at how can we create young human beings that can solve the problems of humanity. And my first question is for Ionuț today, because actually when you talk about how education looks like in Romania right now, there are many challenges, and there are a lot of organizations trying to deal with that and solve the problems we are seeing. But Ionuț has a disruptive angle on this, because we know 42% of youth in Romania are functionally illiterate. And we also know that only 24% of Romanians have a university degree in comparison to 40% in Europe. And your approach to that is let's stop trying to fix things and maybe let's burn the bridges? Is that?
Yeah, thank you for, again, for being here with all of you. When I saw that the panel 5, the education was on panel 5, I said, okay, it's like education, we are Cinderella. What we have to do with this? When we see the numbers of the Romanian market, the result of the Romanian education, unfortunately, we see also our own results of our involvement here and in all Romanian entrepreneurship regarding all Romanian companies. This is the result that how we made it until now for the last 30 years. We said that we did the best in economics. We have very good results of economic growth. And in the last years, we complain about not having employees, about having the employees not in the wrong mood, not with good competences. And the question is what we have to do to change this. What I discovered in my life, also related to education, that the first thing that we have to do to open our mind and to do something in a different way is to clear the storage of all the, let's say, bodies there. Let's accept where we did the mistake and let's redesign the future of Romania. How can we have a sustainable Romania with everything happening in the last 3 years, from COVID, from war? What kind of competences do we need? And my personal opinion is that we do not need competences. We need emotions. We need an education which is focused more on emotional intelligence, less on intellectual, and less on competences. We can gain competences, but if we do not love to learn, if we do not love to accept failure and to learn from failure, if we do not love to make partnership between us, and I heard even today about creating partnership, and the lack and the problems that we have in this moment related to partnership, this is a result of our former education in which we do not accept this kind of things. To be vulnerable, it was something very, very bad. And even for myself, vulnerability was something very, very bad until October 2016. It was a huge change in mind and changing habits. And I will end with something that relates to sustainability, because you said how we can have a sustainable Romania, a sustainable world. It's about changing habits. We cannot do and act the same as we did in the last 30 years and expect to have a different result. If we really want a different result, we need to change our habits. To change our habits, we have to change the way we see the world. And we have to change the way the world occurs to us. To do this, we have to change the context in which we live and we believe. And yes, education is the basic of this one. Let's build people with emotions. Let's build youth with emotions. And sometimes technology, we debate it a bit, preparing this one. Technology is not helping us. We can say, all the people are staying with on social media, on YouTube, but it's very important how you educate your child from the beginning. He can read a book or 10 books, or he can look on YouTube, on technology, on discovering the world, and not on stupid stuff. It's something, sometimes it's dangerous, because from my experience with my boy, he saw on YouTube that he can make chemical substances, and then he goes to his lab and he's trying to do this. But until now I am safe, and my house is still safe with this one. We have to embrace the future and to be positive into this and be vulnerable. Thank you.
And I think you still have the QR codes on your tables in case you have any questions or thoughts about the future of education you want to share with us, and we can take them and discuss them with you, and we'd love to do that. But I think Ionuț said something that was also really relevant when we had our prep conversation about how can we even plan to become sustainable as an economy if we are not purposeful and intentional in regards to teaching this to kids, which is definitely not part of our education curriculum in most of the schools in Romania, and maybe you want to elaborate on that, Ionuț.
Again, it's about what we believe in, and we can put the values, or we can do greenwashing. I heard many times in the panel before with the financial about the greenwashing. We can put the values there on the statement, and our habits can be different, would not be sustainable. This is also about changing the curricula of education. Let's decide and ask the public policymaker to change the education curricula. We have to be united into this and to say what we are waiting for from them. This is an election year. We can feel it already. The question is, how can we, as entrepreneurs and the business environment, how can we involve into this? And we can ask for lower taxes, we can ask for money, we can ask for many things, which are very quick needs for us. let's ask for a different curricula in education and ask for the teachers to change their behavior with the kids in school, starting from the first grade.
Thank you. And when we talk about how do we want young people to be like, because technology is definitely taking a toll on our time, right? And we spend a lot of time browsing, and being a parent is definitely hard. We also have an amazing work done by Verita recently that purposefully focuses on the social-emotional learning and the balance kids have, because we don't want to take them off technology, do we? But when 1 in 4 kids says that they are often angry or sad, then we definitely need to approach this in our education process, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can ignore the curriculum or the math or the science and English, but I just think that children have multiple intelligences, and we have to develop and cultivate these different competencies. So obviously, one of the primary functions of a school and the educational system is to focus on the math and the science and English. And I think even in the Romanian system or in general, I think it's not done very well. So I'd first start with that and then go on to the emotional side. I mean, where a teacher sits in front of a classroom didactically lecturing children sitting in a chair, spoon-feeding content is really irrelevant in today's world. Maybe it was relevant in the 80s and the 90s, but today it doesn't cut it. I don't know how many of you are parents, but I have 3 sons. And Sotiris told me to be hopeful and optimistic, and I want to be cautiously realistic. Society is going to come into a very hard landing, I would say. Whether it's political, disruption, economic issues, instability, war, nationalism, Trumpism, I mean, you name it. This future generation is going to have to face something no other generation has faced. And the disruption is massive. And so having kids memorize content is irrelevant. They're disengaged. I think information's more of a commodity. It's like McDonald's. You have instant access to technology. Why focus on content? So if I was looking at the Romanian system, you said about we have to work on the teachers. I think that's the primary solution, is that I think it's very difficult to make change in the Romanian political system on the educational system from a political standpoint. In my humble opinion, it's been very challenging trying to get government policy, because government policy is it's a sensitive issue. It's a sensitive topic. So instead of taking a top-down approach, let's take a bottom-up approach. And we have to give teachers the skills and train them in how to teach in this different way. So that would be the first thing, is we got to focus on teaching children how to learn. Forget about the content. Now, we're using project-based learning and training our teachers around the world, around the world and in Romania. We're partnered up with Emory University and Rutgers University in providing training for teachers in how to use project-based learning. Why project-based learning? Because it focuses on problem solving, it focuses on critical thinking, it focuses on independent thinking, it focuses on student agency. And in today's traditional world, it's basically predicated on compliance and control. So that would be the first thing. We got to change the whole idea of math and science. And guess what? Doing project-based learning, kids do better on tests. Higher math scores, because they're more engaged. It's experiential learning. It's simulating real life. And what's the end result we want as entrepreneurs here or people in the corporate world? You face every single day multiple problems coming at 100 kilometers an hour, and you need to find solutions now. I don't care about the intellectual world. Yes, it's wonderful to sit down and talk about global politics and talk about the social issues, but at the end of the day, how do you apply the information in the real world? That's all I care about for my 3 sons. How do you be problem solvers? It's wonderful being intellectual, but that's not the only issue. But again, project-based learning does focus on higher math scores and doing well on tests, because a lot of parents are saying, are you sure my kid's going to learn math? Yes. By project-based learning, they do better in math. But then it goes to the social emotional. The social emotional learning part is the most important, because you might have somebody who's a great problem solver, but today's kids are not focused. They have no attention. They have the attention span of a rabbit. Depression rates are up. Anxiety is up.
And how do you address all this? How can you make a kid stay focused? How can you make a kid regulate their emotions in school while teaching math and while preparing all of the other skills and abilities they still need to have?
We're fortunate that
constantly?
we're partnered up with fantastic brilliant minds. Emory University spends $1 billion on research, and they've created a curriculum. So in our minds, it's if you're going to teach math and science and English, teach the soft skills. What's the #1 predictor of success in life? It's not IQ, it's resilience. Our kids are going to fail, they're going to fall down, and they have to learn to get back up. And we are kind of robbing our children of their failures. And we're creating a snowflake society that we create this artificial balloon in front of our kids. And we wonder, why aren't they stronger? Why aren't they have more? Well, there's a curriculum that has specific pedagogies in training children how to be more resilient. So I believe that in schools around the world and in Romania, you can implement these curriculums. And so we're training teachers on implementing these curriculums in school. So just as you go to a math class and a science class, you're going to go to what we call a C-Learning Emory University class. And they have to learn these skills just like anything else.
Thank you. And we already have 3 questions from the audience. And before going to Virgil, I'd like to pick up on one of them. So the first one is, how can we change the habits in the Romanian schools in order to pop up the best of the child and not to learn about the things that he or she will never use? And if anyone wants to pick up on this question.
I'll jump in really quickly. I mean, project-based learning allows you to say, okay, we're going to Mars. And here's the rocket propulsion system, here's the navigation system. Every kid's going to bring his own talents, some kids are more creative, are more humanity-based, artistic ways, so their project's going to be more artistic. A kid who's more math-based or linear thinking is going to do something more linear. So I think that you have to provide student agency for children. Teachers cannot be didactic, they have to be more of a moderator. And you have to provide buy-in from the students.
Thank you. And we're still talking about learning and education, but probably when you talk about how you build your character and your values and your abilities to work in a team and collaborate, it's probably sports that does it better than anything, I think, at least. This is what I deeply believe. And some of our conversations, Virgil, are often about why is sport so important for shaping young people, especially in contexts like Richard mentioned, when adversity is no longer a part of life of youth, at least privileged youth, all around the world.
First of all, let me say hi to everybody. Sotiris, thank you for inviting me. If I knew that a club like this exists, you know, I had no idea.
Just before, when we walked in here, Virgil was like, wow, we got to make this a basketball court.
Yeah, we can turn this into a basketball court, you're right. Sotiris presented like we all into education. And
you are, just that you don't know it.
I do believe that my 20 years career, I learned from sport more than anything else in my life. And I really was into formal education. Like, I've been through it. So I think we think about our future, and education is a big question mark. Okay, how the classroom is going to look in, I don't know, 10 years. But how does the classroom looks right now for our kids in 10 years? Because what we focus in sport is the future self. So when you start sport, you know, you're not Michael Jordan, you're not Messi, you want to become that. So it's clear to you that you need to work to become that. So we can stay here and take an approach to sport of being healthy, you know, teaching you skills like teamwork, understanding roles, understanding winning, losing. Ionuț was talking about losing and learning from failure. Richard was talking about, you know, how you learn to learn, right? But what we do, and what I'm doing today is helping some kids stay in sport and in education, because I think sport doesn't educate people, but educated sport educates people. So what we do, it's what we give them in their backpack for them to be ready, to be ready in 10 years. Actually, our aim is for 4 to 5 years because they go to senior level. So we aim for 14 to 18. This is our span. So looking at that, one thing that I want to mention today, we talk about AI, I'm talking about SI, sport intelligence. And we teach those kids meritocracy. How you become. Because a lot of them expect to be right now. I love those parents when they saying, like, my kid hates to lose. He's so competitive. No, that's not competitiveness. That's just naivety. Like, you go in, at that age, you don't expect to be Michael Jordan. You just have to understand how much work you need to put in to become Michael Jordan. Other than that, it's just being naive, thinking that in 20 minutes I put in pianos, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. But for me to express in piano, it's a totally different thing. So sport, what does, it's giving this idea of future self and what you need to do to become. I think our kids, are in the world. It's a great world. Everything was one. We have all the liberties, or most of it. We have all the expectations because we deserve, just because we are. So our generations probably worked for everything they had, but they expect to have it already because, they're just me. So I think in some way, I want you to look at sport for something that teaches them how to become a future self. Not only to learn how to learn, but how to unlearn what they learned and to be able to learn something else. So in order to understand what you need, is this understanding the process. Because yes, we learn from mistake and from failure, but it's more of a fear factor because it hurts. But we learn from winnings. We learn from the whole process. So sport teaches you that. It teaches you how to look, to work, to understand pain. Pain in a sense, not in the physical pain. Okay, we can talk about that as well. But not in a physical pain, but pain of routine, of doing the same thing over and over again, but having fun with it. How many things in school puts kids into that soft skills? Because I believe that some of those soft skills that we talk gonna become hard skills. Tomorrow's job, it's about those hard skills of how to unlearn things, of how to be adaptable, of how to be agile, of how to be putting the health part on the side, okay? But how to on these things. So I believe with these kids that we work, we see every day what we need to put in their backpack in order to be proactive in that. And when the opportunity comes and just takes the teamwork, the understanding coaching, understanding roles, understanding work, understanding meritocracy, understanding these things. And that's why I think, sport is an applied education for our kids tomorrow and helps them learn how to become. Because if it's one thing that we think of these kids, is not, okay, what is going to be sport in 10 years? We're looking right now in maybe what is not going to change in 10 years. What I'm teaching these kids and my kids, as a safety net that is not going to change. Meritocracy is not going to change. Becoming better is not going to change. Learning to be together is not going to change. Because 1 + 1 is not equal 2. We have a word in Romanian, I don't know how to translate. It's like, unde-s mulți, puterea crește. That's not team, that's just, we're going to lift the table like that. Team is understanding each other and making you better. If I'm better if I make you better. That contribution to something. So this is what sport teaches you and teaches your kids and teaches us, because it's not what we give them right now, download information for them to become the best today. It's helping them to continuously craft their knowledge and their skill and their talent and their passion to be a continuous process. It's not a one-time download. So I think that that's what sport does.
I mean, I got goosebumps when you said becoming, because I think it's such a powerful word. I mean, the art of becoming and how sports molds you in just this real sort of visceral way. And it's not theoretical, it's not intellectual, it's in a visceral, touching way, right? And becoming is something we all have to do constantly. I mean, my father, he changed his job 3 times in his career, 3 times in his life. I maybe changed it 4 or 5 times. I see a colleague from my previous industry. Tomorrow's generation is going to have to change his career 10 times. So they have to relearn becoming constantly. They can't be fixed in one area.
And one more word that you need, like I would like for you to understand, is conquering. It's becoming, but in a conquering way, that you have to win yourself. You know, you have to become, that's going to be a process, and it's going to be a rollover and again and a circle of learning and, you know, practice and fail and win and everything.
But I find it hard because I think kids today don't really have that skill of becoming, more so than any other generation. Because they're so influenced by social media, by the influencers, by, you know, so many other negative impacts, and I think they want this instant gratification. I don't think they know how to become very well, and I think that's a huge part of education.
So can I just take this further even, because we have a question from somebody who's saying, how do we teach our kids effort and learning and hard work in the age of instant gratification? So how do we do that? How do you do it in Verita? How would you do it, Ionuț? How do you do it
they
in
need
sports?
hard working? Maybe they need, maybe they don't need. Maybe you have to decide, first of all, not to decide instead of them. Let them to learn, let them to discover the life. This idea of putting in the kids' education something that we want, that we think that it is good, we have to put a question mark there if we really need to do this. If we look in the past, maybe my father wanted to have a safety life. My grandfather wanted to survive. Grandfather wanted to live by more than 45. Why do we decide what to do for them? Let leave them. Maybe they would like to, I don't know, to be a farmer, or to go to be a social media creator, or to be, I don't know, anything in this world. They can be anything.
I think you're really pointing towards one of the other questions we have, which is we teach history in schools, and it's great. We need to know what got us there, but how about also teaching the future in schools? In biology class, we also teach them about biotech, art, AI, etc. What do you think of that?
I think you were saying that the other day, that we can't really predict the future, right? So how can we provide kids an operating system that will give them that positive mindset, that inner strength, that resilience, that adaptability, that skill of learning how to learn? I think that's much more important, because we can't predict the future. We can't even predict the next 3 months, let alone the next 6 months or 6 years. I mean, I'm in the educational industry. We have no idea what skills we're going to need to teach. So let's focus on the inner skills.
Can I pour more gasoline on fire with this?
I would like to add something on that. What my industry does, sport, and have that pressure valves, you know, on the mental well-being and stuff. It's understanding expectations, right? So it's like, make people understand what they put in to be equal with what they take out. I mean, that's a simple equation. Some people don't believe, you know, they think that the success and life-work balance is 50-50, but they expect KPIs of 100 and 0. You know, so what we need to create is a place where we make them understand what you put in is what you take out. You know, and once you happy with that, because I was happy with that, you know, my kid being born in Russia, my second one almost in Italy, probably I spent 2 Christmases home, you know, that type of effort, but because I wanted that type of result. So that was my balance. That was my life work balance. You know, to understand what is needed to put in for what you take out. I think that's more than just give them, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, understand the process. Understand the process with all the things that go in so you are balanced. If you want to be a parent 90% of the time, it's still, you know, high performance. Like you sacrifice yourself to be a parent. You know, it's the same thing. Just understand the process. So with my kids and with kids that we work with is what you do today for your dream. You know, I don't need to, you know, wish that more than you do. I don't care about that. It's just I want you to understand what it takes for your dream to become objective, you know, and how to measure that. And this is what sport does also. It's giving you steps and parts that actually tells you you're on the right track and you're ready to become.
I'd like to go back to that other question because about what do we do as parents? First of all, I have 3 sons, and I feel more humbled and smacked around than ever before in my life. I mean, the first child, I knew everything. I know how to be a parent. These are the 10 steps. Second child, you're humbled, and by the third child, and then they reach teenage years, and you're like, oh my God, right? Studies have shown, I mean, basically, and we're dealing with thousands of kids at the moment, having kids on screens is the worst thing you do for your children. And I know that's a different opinion, but looking at the neuroscience of things, how the brain develops, the neural synapses, the dopamine levels, the more kids are on their screens, on their phones, constantly is robbing them of their sovereignty, robbing them of their well-being. There's more anxiety, there's more depression. I think it's kind of like low-grade child abuse. And I don't know why we're standing for it as a society. And the reason why we're standing for it is because we are addicted to our phones. First thing we do in the morning is we pick up our phone and we start letting the phone dictate our life. And it's taking away our sovereignty, and it's taking away the sovereignty of our children and their agency. Now, it's fine in terms of learning. I mean, we have everything on the cloud in our school. Every kid has a laptop. But at a young age, especially until they reach teenage years, if all they're doing is being on the gaming consoles and on the TikToks and so forth, this is robbing them of everything. Get them out to sports. Have them do chores. Let them fail. Let them fall down. Let's not helicopter over our children.
The solution is mixing inside of a child everything that he has around him. And yeah, without not 100% screens, it's impossible to do this. It's craziness. To create an equilibrium between what they want to discover, how they want to discover, and you as a parent not to. I learned from my 2 kids not to say. I try not to say no. I try to show them other options, and the benefits of discovering something new, everything around them.
To me, I think that contest with the technology, we learn a lot from technology because the kid, when he's getting on the game, like first of all, he has a own coach. Like the game teaches him or her how to play and how to become better. Second, it's on their level. You know, if you lose a life, he's just going to put you with algorithm. Is going to place you in a place that it's interesting. And now, question is, does the classroom forget about that to put kids in their own level? Does sport puts them in the own level? Because it's important. This is how we took a different angle on what we do with the kids, because we don't have a frame for all the kids. This is how you need to become. No, it has to be individually for each one of them. Because one is going to mature early, one is going to be late, one is going to be at 180, one is going to be at 210. So we cannot create those frames. This is the competition. So it's on us to create things interesting and not to create things of one too many. Expectations, this is the whole message, and put you in the same place. So I think this is what we need to do better in sport as well, to have that. We have a great advantage of having a coach, and since you're little, you know, so you understand the need that plastic behavior that you need to change, and you give feedback and you take feedback and so on. So all of a sudden, like, the coach needs to know me and what works for me. And it's the same with parenting. Imagine being parent to 30 kids. You're gonna do the whole pizza at night. You're not gonna give pasta to one, pizza to one, you know, steak to another one. So it's like that. I believe that. So that's why it's tough, but we need to learn a lot from this part of, you know, what is interesting for them. And believe me, when you see kids in the playground, they forget about the phones. They do. They're going to be there for 6 hours because they like that. But coming back to what you said with adversity, the schoolyard is not politically correct. It's very meritocratic. You play there if you deserve to play there.
If the parents don't go running out to save the children
You
from
cannot
fighting.
do that.
When you catch when you fall, right?
So it's you have that response right away in sports.
And maybe to end, as we're approaching the final part of our conversation, I wanted to pick up on this question because it's disruptively different than everything we've discussed up until now, and I wanted to take the time so that I don't interrupt the beautiful flow of this conversation. There is a question asking, what is the single most effective action a company can make to contribute to education? And what I want to do with a room full of business people is give you your power back. And I want to do this by saying two things to you. First is, maybe you don't know this, but the total amount of investment that private companies are making in education in Romania is roughly around 400 million euros per year. I don't know if you knew that. And it's only the amount that companies are redirecting through their fiscal facilities. However, you know how much is the total potential amount that companies can redirect to NGOs? If there is anyone who wants to make a guess. The total potential available financial amount. So what people are giving today is 400 million euros per year. 1 billion, it's 800, it's double than that. What we're seeing, if you're looking at figures, is that one, there's a lot of investment from all of your companies already happening, but this investment is oftentimes not effective. So I think my first answer to this question is make sure, if you do support projects in education, for us at least, it's not about quick fixing the system that's already running, it's about measuring impact and making sure investments you all provide have the desired results. And I think this is how you invest, not if you invest. And the other is, let's just try to find the companies who are not doing it, because it's not a matter of money. Money is there, as you can see. I think it's the way we pour money into the public state system and into the NGO sector that can create more leverage and more impact. And I do think there is a humongous amount of potential behind this, pool of capital, if you want. And I think we can leverage this more than we ever did. And my second thought is also about giving you the power back, that it is probably the business sector these days in Romania that is most listened to by the political stakeholders. And I can confidently tell you this because 2 years ago, before they changed the law of education, it was a number of NGOs who was trying to work with the Ministry of Education to create some systemic policy changes. And we succeeded with a lot of reforms that we're hoping still to see implemented. But I think, would we not have had the private sector with us in this effort, and there were about 20 chambers of commerce with us at that moment, to go to the parliament together, to go to the prime minister audiences together, to walk into the office of the Minister of Education every other 2 weeks, would this not have happened, many of the things us as NGOs have always shouted for would have not been listened to. And I just want to praise you for taking time to be part of such projects that are probably taking you out of the office within your busy schedule, and I know that's difficult. But I think the results we've achieved as an NGO sector with the law of education recently show that if we put intention in creating a common first in between what NGOs are already doing and we're sometimes left into the corner and we're just the ones who are like, oh yes, they're saying something. But when business sector comes behind us, we are doing amazing things. And I just want to offer you one last example. Maybe you know that last summer it was this fiscal deficit context in Romania, and you know the government was trying everything to close the budget gap, and we've all felt it, right? And one of the things they've been trying to do is definitely attempt to work with the fiscal facilities that NGOs have to try to close the financial gap that the government was in such dire need to address. And I want to say hi to Robert Ion. I don't know where you are, Robert, right now, because it was Robert's organizations, Homes and Hopes, and 10 others, biggest NGOs in Romania, and we worked so closely with the business sector, and we had 2 weeks to stop the government from cutting off these fiscal facilities. And I want to remind you once again, this would have robbed the NGO sector in Romania 800 million euros per year, and we managed to do this. And it's another example of fabulous collaboration, which is Ionut's favorite word. Fabulous collaboration in between the private sector and the NGOs. And I said all this, and I want to close probably because we still have 1 minute to go. I said all this just to give you enough examples that you can do so much instead of just funding and sponsoring. And your leverage is so important in the type of work that we can do that it's uncomparable. Richard, you still have
I was going to jump in really quickly,
yeah.
and I'll let you guys jump in.
We have 1 minute, so if you all have a closing remark, maybe it's the time for it.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say we give a bad rap to the public system, but there's so many talented, amazing teachers out there in the public school system that we're training, and they're so passionate, and they're understaffed, and they're undertrained.
They are.
So they're doing an amazing job. They just need that training, that support. I know
Yeah.
you're doing the training, we're doing the training. So I think that when we talk about a poly-crisis, economic crisis, political crisis, the root of the problem is education. And the fundamental core source nexus of the crisis is how humans make decisions, the human decision process. And what's the root of human decision making? It's education, it's how we're educated. So if we focus on education, I think we'll solve a lot of the problems that are out there. As the TED Talk said, the room will be empty. Well, it starts with education to change that so the room isn't empty and we don't have some climate change problems and crises. So.
Over to the climate change guy. Closing remark.
I think the existential message that we have to do in order to change the education is to do what we say we want to do. How many times we have mission, vision, values, and how many times do we feel ourselves that it's a gap between what we say we want to do and we really do. Why I say this? Because really we have to show to everybody around us, to all the stakeholders, including the kids, including the government, including everybody, that yes, we are committed to have a sustainable world, to really have a circular economy world, to change and to accept this huge change that we are in this moment. If we send the message in time, I strongly believe that we will change also the education and we will have, yes, great kids and great potential around us.
I'm just going to say, you know, we talked about sport and kids, but it's same thing for all of us. You know, play sports. And that play thing in there, it's amazing. You know, it's you don't do sports. You play basketball, you play volleyball, everybody plays
Just do it.
sport. So let's play some sport together.
Thank you.